All right, so go ahead and read this one silently and find the conclusion, and then let me know when you're done, once you just have the conclusion. Okay, so C word, yes. Okay, so we have, so because introduces a premise, we have scientific valid inferences could not be drawn from the study because of the small sample size. So we're saying like, hey, however, it was interesting. It was interesting because these were the results that happened. And then we're saying that this proves that the regulation was effective in reducing exposure to those chemicals. So after I have all of this figured out in my head, I go ahead and this is when I read the question stem then. Sometimes I will read it after I read it the first time. I will read the question stem and then find my conclusion. I just don't let myself do the answer choices.
Okay. See, so I do the stimulus and then I come up with a flaw or what I see that's wrong, and then I go to the answer choice.
Here, so yeah, so I would read the stimulus. So in this example, I would read the stimulus. This one, like, I didn't read the question stem because I know it has a conclusion. Like, I don't need to read the question to know it has a conclusion. So I find the conclusion. I don't find the flaw yet. I read the question because what if it's asking for a weaken or a strengthen or something like that? So now I read it and I says the reasoning in the argument is most vulnerable on the grounds that. So now I come back and I know it's a flaw and I ask myself, why does this support not guarantee this conclusion? Now I come up with the gap.
Oh, I think I know. Oh, I think I see it.
Yes, I love that we can see it. What is it?
I think I can see it. I could be wrong. I could be totally fucking wrong. But I think my issue is I could be wrong. I know. But how can
you could be right?
How can we say that something proves the regulation being like banning the CPD was effective in reducing human exposure if there was only a smaller sample size?
Yes!
Like there's not a bigger sample size. Like, so how are we going
it cannot be valid. We cannot
be valid.
Did
I do that right?
Yes,
right?
100%. Did you see it too, Gaia?
Oh my
So but I saw something else too. And I think that's what
another
threw me
flaw.
off.
What's your flaw?
Okay, sorry.
Well, I was like, they're concluding that the regulation, the ban was effective, but that's like a causation correlation. Like, what if something else caused the reduction of the levels?
Excellent. Yeah, there's two flaws going on here.
That's what threw me off.
This proves that the regulation.
Right there.
Well, and two, actually, I think they kind of go together, Guy, in the sense that this proves that they're because this happened, but even though we did this, the fact is it was a really small sample size. So how do we know that it was even reducing the exposure overall, all of it too?
Got it.
Like the major, yes, this is like a correlation causation flaw, but the bigger thing is that this result isn't even accurate to even show that something is causing the other, because like let's say that there was this such a teeny sample size.
Got it. Okay.
That's what I in my head, that's what I saw. Like I saw a small sample size, but then like trying to correlate it to a whole type of environment, human exposure. And, like I would have felt more comfortable if it's a younger,
Yes, and but like you have to use your personality to read these stimuluses. Use your strength to your advantage. Okay. I'm like, but the results were interesting. Then I like on the LSAT, this is how I read it. Because I didn't miss stuff like that when I would, engage with it. And I'm like, oh, well, tell me why they're interesting.
I was so scared, but like I felt so confident. Like
no,
I was like, I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Okay, so go ahead now and both of you pick your answer choice.
Okay.
I'm guessing that the first time Gaia picked D.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's pretty easy to cross off B as in boy here, because overlooks the possibility that 2 or more chemicals produce the same effects. Like that's not our problem, right? Like 2 or more, like we don't even need it to be the same exact effect. So it's not B. C concludes that a generalization has been proven true merely on the grounds that it has not been proven false. Like, no, our reasoning for why this is not because it hasn't been proven false. Like, this is like, well, because we know that, because there's no this for that to be true, it would be saying something like, because there's no research saying that it doesn't do this, it must be happening. That's not what happens. E does not consider the possibility that PCBs have detriment. Like, we don't care about human health here. We're just saying that this is causing this. Like, I don't care. Like, we're not trying to be, you know, almighty people here. We're just trying to say this is why this does not cause this.
Thank you for crossing out C, because like I was between A and C, but I was like, C can't be it because what was proven not false. Like I was like, what's proven not false?
And like what does that mean to not be false? Like that has to be like, just because what hasn't been proven true, or just because it hasn't been proven false, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's true. So like that would be saying like, just because well, I explained it before. Okay, so D, take something to be the cause of a reduction. All right, so this is how you need to review these flaw questions, especially when you're missing them or struggling with them. Take something to be the cause of a reduction. So what is the thing that we're taking to be the cause of the reduction in this?
The banning.
Yeah, the banning of PCBs. When it could have been the effect of that reduction.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
See, okay, so I see how you predicted it, but when you try to fit it in, like what could have been, when it could have been the effect of the like, so that would be reducing human exposure to those chemicals is what caused the ban. That doesn't make sense.
I guess I invested into my prefaces, and I think that's what throws me off too.
Yep, and it's great to come up with them, but now we have to be extremely critical. We have to read, like, you have to read every single word of this test. Isn't that crazy? And then A, takes an inconsistent stance regarding the status of the inferences, aka conclusion, that can be drawn from the study. Absolutely. What's our inconsistent stance? Our inconsistent stance is scientifically valid inferences could not be drawn. And then in the second part, we says this proves. That's an inconsistent stance.
But okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. So takes an inconsistent stance, which is the stance
regarding the status of the conclusion. Like inference means conclusions. So it takes an inconsistent stance regarding the status of the conclusions that can be drawn from the study. Because up here we say scientifically valid inferences could not be drawn. And then here we say this proves.
Right. Takes it because you got it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of between. That's why I asked about the conclusion part with that sentence, because it really stuck out to me. Like, okay, well, if it can't be drawn, then how can we prove a regulation? Like, how can
you were like,
I was so confused. I was so lost. I'm like, well, it's saying it can't be drawn, but then they're saying, we're going to ban it. Right, we're going to ban some things. I'm like, what the fuck?